Hey guys, I'm Pixel Dan, and this is a review of the Masters of the Universe Classics, Callix. Callix, yeah. You might be asking yourself who this is, unless you were a fan of the 2000X cartoon series from Mike Young Productions. That's because this character was created specifically for that show and, well, was only seen very briefly. And we've never really seen him anywhere else since, especially in action figure form. But thanks to the new Club 2000X subline from Mattel, we've got this guy in action figure form for the very first time. So let's check him out. As you can see, he still comes on that standard Masters of the Universe Classics blister card packaging, complete with the Evil Horde insignia sticker right there on the front. And flipping that box around to the backside, we get a look at some of the other figures in the Classics line, as well as a brand new bio for Callix. Callix has a really interesting design that translates quite beautifully into action figure form. I'm going to be perfectly honest with you guys up front. Callix is a character that I never, ever desired to get as an action figure. This character showed up for like 2 seconds in the MYP cartoon series, just so that Hordak could kill him to show how ruthless he was. Fans have actually asked for this character for quite some time, and, well, with Mattel giving us a whole subline of 2000X characters that only appeared in that era, Callix ended up making the cut. And while I have actually always said that I never cared to have an action figure of this guy, I have to admit that holding him in person has changed my mind, because a huge rock guy really does make a great action figure. One of the things that I think is so great about this guy is the fact that the Four Horsemen were able to manipulate the standard Masters of the Universe buck and still make him look like this big, rocky beast. You'll notice that you can see on the biceps and the abs and the thighs that it is just the same standard body in a gray color. However, the armor seen over his shoulders and chest, the loincloth piece, the forearms and hands, as well as the lower legs, are all these really great sculpted rock pieces that are attached to the figure. So overall, it does a pretty great job of making him look like he is made of stone. Some of those smooth areas do stand out a bit amongst all of the carved rock pieces, but honestly, it's not something that really bothers me. Because it flows so well, it seems to work out pretty well on this guy, and overall, I'm just incredibly impressed that they were able to do what they did with the standard Masters of the Universe body here. So of course it's not removable armor. That whole upper body piece is glued to the figure, so there's no removable armor there, but it does have a really great design, and you can see there's a nice collar portion that kind of comes up around the back of the head, and then that head sculpt is incredible. He's got a very Easter Island look to his head sculpt. I really love those deep set black eyes, and a detail that I never really noticed about Callix before, the fact that he's totally rocking a beard. Look at that, he's got a stone beard. I love that. His forearms and hands are also got a really great rocky sculpt to him, as well as the boot pieces that make up his feet. And another thing that's kind of neat about that is the fact that they are a bit elongated, which makes the figure stand a little bit taller. He's about a ½ inch taller than your standard Masters of the Universe Classics figure, which is pretty cool. The rock is pretty nicely done as far as the paint job goes. It's all done in a gray color. The stony portions do look to be a slightly different shade of gray than the smooth portions on his body, so that does kind of help it stand out a little bit. There's a very subtle wash on there. It's not too overly dirty looking. In fact, the place where the wash is the heaviest is definitely on the face. I probably would be okay with this having a bit of a darker wash just to kind of really bring out all of the cracks and everything, but overall it's not too bad at all. I mean, the paint job is nice and clean, and all of those details are really brought to life. The gray color that's used is very, very nice, so especially when you've got him under some good lighting, he kind of shines and looks very cool. Now you'll notice on his chest as well as his belt piece, he does have Horde Emblems. On the original prototype we saw, I believe those were done in the same color gray as the rest of the body, but it looks like on this final figure, they've kind of changed it to a sandstone kind of color. Got a bit of a tan, textured look to it, and it does look very nice. I kind of like that because it does make it look like it's not just part of him, but something that he's actually wearing, and it still has a very rocky, earthy feel to it, which is very cool. However, I do see how the gray would still look awesome as well, but I'm not bothered by the brown look that they went with. Alright, my friends, let's go ahead and take a closer look at Callix here. Now, he does have all these extra rock bits that we talked about that are glued to the figure. So let's go ahead and talk about the articulation on this guy. He's got this large collar piece that comes up all the way around the back of his head there. You can rotate the head still left and right, but you will notice that the long chin with the beard piece on there, it is going to hit the collar a little bit. So it's going to slightly hinder that movement, but it's not so bad. He still looks left and right pretty good, and you can still move the head slightly up and down. He's got these pieces that come over the shoulders, but it is a bit of a softer plastic, so you can still raise the arms up pretty good. You can move them forwards, backwards, swivel at the bicep, standard joint at the elbow. You can also swivel at the wrist here. He's got the standard torso crunch, so you can still bend them forwards and backwards. You can swivel them at the waist, and that cut is actually underneath the rocky loincloth piece there, so you can see he still swivels very nicely. And the thighs still function very well, so he can still kind of almost do the splits there. You can get him in a pretty decent sitting pose, so the articulation still functions very well at the thighs. You got thigh swivels there. You got your standard joint at the knee. You got swivels at the boot cut, and then you've got swivels at the feet here, kind of at the ankle place. But the feet do not move forwards and backwards, and they don't pivot side to side, so that's going to be my only real nitpick with this guy. That's because since he's got those larger, wider feet that are very round, since the feet don't really rock, if you get them in some poses, you'll notice that the feet are going to be kind of slanted and up off the ground. So it really kind of depends on the way that you pose him. But otherwise, even though all of these armor bits are glued on and they're non-removable, they don't really do anything to hinder the articulation whatsoever. I mean, he still poses very well, still a very functional action figure. And while the armor is not removable, the head still pops off just like we've seen with all the other figures on that standard ball joint there. So you can easily pop that off and then you can pop it back on. You just got to kind of work around that little collar there, but there we go. There is Callix. So Callix includes two accessories. First up, he's got this smaller round shield. And the shield's got that same kind of rocky look as the rest of his body, including a nice little ring in the center that's that same kind of sandstone-like color that's seen on the Horde emblems. It has a handle on the inside, and with the position of the handle kind of being off-centered, it definitely holds best in his left hand to get the best pose out of it. And then to go right along with that shield is this really cool stone axe accessory. The handle on there almost has a bit of a rocky / fossilized bone look to it, which is pretty cool, and that looks nice and it can be held in either one of his hands. But here's the fun trick with this. You'll notice that there is a second handle sticking off the back of the axe. That's because if you want to, you can also turn this around and put it in his hand using that other handle, and it doubles as a rock version of the classic Horde crossbow, which is ingenious. I love the Four Horsemen. So there you go, my friends. There is a look at Callix, part of Club 2000X from the Masters of the Universe Classics toy line. As I said, not a character I ever cared for. I'd have been totally fine if he was never released. But now that I've got him, I'm so glad that we do. We're at this point in the line where we're starting to get some pretty obscure characters, and being a big Masters of the Universe fan, I love that. I welcome that. And this guy really does translate so well into action figure form. The rock look is a perfect visage for a cool, imposing action figure. And when you pair this guy up with the rest of your evil horde, wow, look at the way this team is growing. They need a whole shelf to themselves. It's awesome. So special thanks to Mattel for sending Callix along so we can take a good in-depth look at him early. He goes on sale in July and, as I said, is part of that Club 2000X sub-subscription, so he's not part of the main subscription. So happy hunting, my friends! and until next time.